things off, everyone. So I'm Dr. Hall, the director of TCU Sales Center, and I wanted to thank all of y'all for joining us today. We have an amazing speakers today, and so I'm gonna kind of kick it off in a different way. I'm not going to do much introductions. I'm going to have a student actually introduce some of our speakers, and so I'm going to introduce Hutch Hirschberger. He's actually in our sales capstone class, and Hutch is the reason why LinkedIn's here today. Part of our class, you have to outreach to recruiters, salespeople, and sales leaders. And he had a passion for LinkedIn and reached out to Eric Becker, who is a TCU alumni, and he created this connection. Eric thought it'd be great that we brought on Rob to do this Rock Your LinkedIn profile. And so I'll pass it off to Hutch to do introduction of Eric Becker. So Hutch, take over.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Hall. Yeah, my name is Hutch. I'm a senior. I'm a marketing and sales student in the Sales Center right now. If you guys haven't heard of it, I highly recommend or talk to one of us about it. But yeah, I get the honor of introducing one of our guests, Eric Becker, today. And he's the enterprise client solutions manager at LinkedIn. And I got connected to him this summer through a mentorship program through the TCU Career Center. If you guys haven't heard of it, I'd really recommend reaching out to Kelsey Gentry or another person at the Career Center, because they can really set you up with any person you want to talk to within the industry, really get you connected with alumni. So if you guys are interested in that, want a mentor or anything in that realm, I highly recommend reaching out to them. But yeah, two things I really appreciate about Eric is his authenticity. Just on the first call I had with him, he'll tell you it straight up and be really transparent, as well as his humility. I don't know if he'll touch on it at all, but he's got a unique path to LinkedIn, and didn't really know what he wanted to do, a little bit how I was during the summer, but just got to talk to the right people and finally find his way path to LinkedIn. And so, and things that I really have enjoyed about learning about LinkedIn is their culture specifically, that they have a really diverse team within LinkedIn. And I think that's really important to have everybody at the table when you're doing business, as well as LinkedIn. And something Eric talked about is it really sets people up for success. So enough about that, but I'd like to hand it over to Eric. Yeah, thanks so much for being with us today, Eric.
Awesome. Thank you, Hutch, for the kind intro. And you can already tell he's going to be a great salesperson. He's already dropping in plugs left and right for some of the programs you got going in there. But, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of students this summer, and Hutch was one of them. And he absolutely blew me away from every single conversation we had, as far as many of the other students have. And I just go back and think, when I was sitting in your seat, if I was even half as put together and prepared as a lot of you guys are, you guys have some really, really great and bright futures ahead of you. Also, super excited to continue working with you guys. And we have a great session lined up. And just to give some context of why we're all here today. And I think it goes back to, that journey that Hutch was talking about. When I was sitting in your seat 6-7 years ago in class with a very, very low GPA and no idea what was going on or what I wanted to do, I think, if somebody told me I could have a sales role at LinkedIn in New York City in 5 years, I said, that's fucking awesome, but how do I get there? And I have absolutely no idea. And I think, the point of today is to really talk about some of the best practices and the tools that LinkedIn provides, and some of that hygiene to really put your best foot forward and connect yourself to opportunity and start that journey now. Because I don't think it's ever too late to start, but I think if I was, in your position now and starting some of those things, just that path to success is just so much more clear. And I wish I had that. So I think it speaks, we have how many people on the call, a huge amount, which is awesome. It just speaks to how much you guys truly care about your career, and everyone's here sitting here, which is huge. So, really congrats to you guys. That means a lot that you guys are interested, and looking forward to the session. So we're going to do an intro to an intro. So I'm going to go ahead and intro Rob Humphrey. So Rob is, without a doubt, truly probably one of the best salesperson that I've ever had an opportunity to work with and listen to speak. And he absolutely kills quotas like it's nobody's business. And I'll tell a story about Rob, which he's never heard in that because I've never ever told it before. But a year ago, we were all in Vegas, sitting up in our massive sales kickoff. We had about 6,000 of us salespeople in Vegas. Massive production on the stage, and Rob gets up there and just, #1 salesperson of the year, continually just crushes quota, gets up there and gives a kick-ass speech. And I think I went home that night and just said, how do I be that guy? how do I get up on that stage? How do I give up and kill that speech? And, ultimately, I don't think I was the only one that felt that way. Probably 5,990 of us felt the exact same way. But, how do I become Rob Humphrey? And Rob is truly, I think, aside from just killing quotas and being the #1 salesperson at LinkedIn, he approaches it, I'm going to steal Hutch's word, in an authentic manner. He's probably one of the most authentic speakers that I've ever, listened to. And he really cares. Like he gives a lot of thought and really cares about this shit. He wants everyone in this room to be successful and, grow as an individual. And I think no one does it better than he does. He's done a lot of these sessions with a lot of different schools. So I think we're in for a real treat today, and really looking forward to hearing Rob have to speak. So Rob, I'll hand it over to you.
Right on. That's Eric. That's the sweetest thing, man. I've heard in a while. It really made my day, and I appreciate you saying it. It took me 10 years to get up on that stage and get that trophy. It was very, very a long haul. So I appreciate you pointing that out. And glad to be on the call. So the way I like to do this is like get right into it. And don't have any slides. I got a bunch of profiles. I've been scoping out a lot of profiles. One of my favorite is this one. Please zoom in on that some. That's Michaela's profile. The reason I like that profile is because in the headline, it says Voice of TCU's Amplify Women Sales Podcast. It does not say current student or whatever, or student at. You guys hear me okay? Give me a quick thumbs up. Somehow Siri started communicating to me on my iMac. But anyways, gonna pick on some profiles. If you want me to pick on yours, whatever, let me know in the chat. Also, I've got a little bit of a side project going on. It's called Do Work, and I'm doling out like unfiltered career advice. If you guys could give that a little follow, I'll put that in the chat. That would be great. I really appreciate the support on that. So let's get at it. Like I thought, Eric, what I would do is like explain my version of how LinkedIn works, number one, and that won't take long. Number two is get into some of the aspects of the profile that I think are important. I won't go into too much depth there. You guys already know most of it. I've looked at a bunch of your profiles. They're actually quite comprehensive, like almost rock star level, many of them. So that's great. Love to get your questions. That fuels my adult ADHD. So just like I could do 18 things at once. It's my hidden talent. Feel free to put them in the box. I'll answer them. So I'm going to explain how LinkedIn works. We're going to talk about the profile. I'm just going to go ahead and use people's profiles. I'm going to use Carter's for sure. And I appreciate you putting the link in there. I'll definitely do that. I'm going to tell it like it is too. So that's important. And then I'll tell you a couple of the secrets to LinkedIn that no one knows about. You guys probably know because you've got Dr. Hall and you got Hutch, you got Eric, you got a lot of people helping you out. So I love the connectivity. Quick power tip before we even get started. Definitely follow my profile. You can connect with me if you want as well. But following's the key, right? So make sure that you're actually interconnected though, like as a team. Maybe you guys cover this in your courses or whatever, but make sure you're following each other. That way, when Brandon or Madison or Mike Phillips, or maybe Morgan, they're CEO of some company or VP of sales or whatever, they'll already be connected with you when they're going to look for alumni to hire, right? Make sure you do that. It's really important. So let's get cracking. I'm going to go ahead and explain LinkedIn in a nutshell, and then I'll go ahead and we'll start sharing some stuff also. So first and foremost, bear with me. Zoom will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. Don't know what that means. Bear with me one sec. Can you guys see my Google screen there? Yay. Thanks for helping me out there. I got a new iMac. I didn't tell my wife about it yet. I went over to Best Buy, picked it up this morning, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble because it's baller. It's got like everything in it. You'd think the top salesperson at LinkedIn or the previous top salesperson at LinkedIn would be, I'll just go buy an iMac. But no, I got to have a consensus. It's very important. So listen, here's how LinkedIn works in a nutshell. It is basically Netflix, essentially. Same kind of deal. There's a bunch of algorithms that we've built, and many of them are actually patented. Two of them are super important. One is the people you may know. The other one's jobs you may be interested, also called JIMBY internally. So you get some acronyms there in case you ever interview at LinkedIn. Hope you do. And really what those two things do is they drive sort of the essence of how this operates. Just like if you're watching, maybe you're watching Schitt's Creek, Stranger Things, and you're rewatching, Breaking Bad or whatever. Netflix is going to say, listen, you should be watching these shows, or your buddies are watching these shows, that type of thing. You guys with me on that? So that's super important. That's basically how it works. Why is this even important to you as aspiring salespeople, business people, whatever you aspire to be doing? It matters because you can tune the algorithm just like you can on Netflix. I got 3 kids. The reason I tell you that is I got my own little test bed at home. My oldest son graduated from Carolina in December. My daughter is turning 18 Friday. I was putting together a little photo album for her. I was like drenched in tears all morning putting that thing together. I probably shouldn't talk so loud because I think she's in another room. I don't want her to hear me. And my middle son's still in college. So I've got my own little test bed, right, of what's going on. So a lot of these things I've tested out. So listen, that's how it works. Tuning the algorithm, what I mean by that is like, it would be cool if you go hunt down a job like every other person in the world, but you're not going to do that. You're going to actually have jobs come to you. Why? Because you're in a very unique program, one that's gotten some proven sort of results. I'm actually super interested in hearing about all this stuff that you guys are doing, the videos, the pitches, the sales, the actual like experience stuff. It's really exciting. So listen, you can tune this algorithm to your liking. Let's talk about the profile. Before I do that, if you have questions, go ahead and either jump in, unmute yourself, or put them in the chat box. And again, I'm happy to answer them as we go along.
I'm going to tell you to zoom in. That's not a question. It's an ask.
What's the question?
If you can zoom in.
Zoom in, sure. Is that better?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, probably should have done a couple zooms on my new iMac beforehand, but cool. So let's talk about the basics of the profile here. Hold on a second. Let me just move around some windows. Cool, right on. So here are the basics. Zoom in. Now, that was like a big zoom in, Mr. Becker. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Okay, so step 1, profile. You've got the 2 critical visual elements up on top. That is your picture and your cover image. Got to have those. Got to make sure they look professional, of course. Don't want any cats, sorority sisters, bongs, any of that kind of crap in the background, even your mom and dad, no offense. But you want to keep that clean. You want to have that professional, preferably you're smiling. And the cover image is important as well. When you're in school, the best advice I have is just put the images of your school, the campus, whatever, even in the pandemic times, but certainly like something that connects the dots between your aspirations and your background. Sometimes a lot of times I change mine out. So I might have the ally profile. The next week I might put in some snowboarding stuff, some mountains, or whatever. The reason I do that is to always be continually testing, sort of A/B testing what's happening here. And, I mention it like that because listen, this is all marketing and sales. It really is. You can call it personal branding. You could call it like rocking your profile, but it's basically selling yourself and marketing yourself in a dynamic way and in an automated fashion. So those 2 pieces are important. Of course, one power tip is anytime you do this stuff, always go to the mobile device and make sure it's working on there as well. Like you want to see how that looks. So Michaela has some cool images. One, she's like kissing the trophy that she won. And I thought that was pretty cool. I actually would have put that first. The reason is the first image on the mobile device is going to be the first image in the carousel. It's going to be this one here. I have unlocked LinkedIn. That's what it's going to be. So think about it. 82%, roughly 85%, Eric can correct me, of users are still using the flagship, the LinkedIn app, as their primary vehicle for interfacing. Of course, during the pandemic times, like a lot of people are on desktop, but the vast majority are still scrolling on the app, which is great news. because that experience you could really manage well. So let's back up. I've got a summary section here. It's really an about section, and this is really the opportunity, most important opportunity to make your pitch. I go at it like just out of the gates. I dream big, I get stuff done, I have fun, and I beat quotas. I want people to know that, because obviously that I want them to know, like, I want to, I want to make the money, and I want to like be on top. So that's important. I've read a few of them, and a lot of them are great. I'm going to pick on Michaela only because I got explicit permission to do that. And I love that right out of the gates. It says, when I read it on mobile, it says, as a teenager, I once promised myself I'd never ever major in business. And that's the first, like, you start seeing that sentence, and then it's ... So I want to be like, okay, I got to read this. Like, I'm almost feel obligated to go at it and read that, which I did, of course, like all the way through Texas Hill Country and all the stuff you're talking about. So your first like 4 words in your profile, in your about section of your profile, are super important. A lot of people might read this. They say, dream big, get shit done, have fun. They may be like, wow, that guy sounds real aggressive. I'm not going to call him. Great. I just got rid of a bad lead as far as I'm concerned. Right. And that's how I look at it. So that's super important section. Next up, and by the way, if this is too fundamental or not, let me know. I could speed up, I could slow down, I could skip this, up to you. Huge fan of this featured section. Very, very important. This is where you can actually put sort of your featured little, I call them like ads. That's basically what they are, right? They're links to different things. Some of those things, of course, are just images with maybe an update. Some of them may be accolades you've won. Some of them may be images of you in action, like maybe it's selling, doing a talk, whatever the case may be. But occasionally I'll scroll through these and I'll say, hey, we're coming up on, hiring season. So I'll move any of these that are like hiring oriented up to the top and that type of thing, and modify them. So this is a really important section. Next up is, we'll get to the activity section a little bit. We're going to double down on publishing, activity, and the feed, and some of the LinkedIn secrets. Eric, I'm going to depend on you for keeping track of time, making sure I'm making sure there's time for other people and so on, because I could be a little bit long-winded. So we'll talk about it in a second, but experience-wise, you guys are getting some, plug it in. But let me be clear on something here. If you worked at Taco Bell all summer and that's what you did, put that in. My son the other day is like, well, I did work at Taco Bell, but why would I put that in? Why? Because it's a recognizable brand. Why wouldn't you? So it doesn't really matter. A lot of people, at your stage, maybe you don't have a ton of experience. Plug in whatever you have. If you don't have any, you go and knock it down when you do. But you want to get something baked in here. Also, same importance of imagery apply. Like LinkedIn, when I joined in 2010, I've been here almost 11 years now. Like it was like, okay, you have your basic stuff in there. That's it. Now it's completely dynamic. Like you really need to think about this as what images do you want people to see at certain points of time. So you should be calibrating your profile from time to time and moving things around. Another little tip I could give you is I'll go in here sometimes. I have it on my calendar like every month, and I'll just like change a sentence or a word, or I'll just update it to make it sound more like whatever, contemporary or whatever. Why would I do that? There's a couple reasons. One is I have a very limited social life at this stage in my life. Number 2 is, so recruiters are using LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the flagship tool that literally like most recruiters in the world use. There's roughly 200,000 recruiters in the world concurrently using the tool, even in this sort of crazy time in terms of the economy and jobs. So, by the way, luckily there's a ton of sales jobs. So there we go. But so you can utilize that stuff, to your advantage. Essentially, is what I'm saying. So going down the profile, the other 2 things that are probably pretty important: education. I went to school in upstate New York. At a school you probably never heard of. If you did, give me a little thumbs up in the chat. But listen, it doesn't really matter. What matters is in my first month at LinkedIn, I went into the tool I'm going to show you in a little bit, and I found a guy who was a CEO at an agency. He did a bunch of work and had a really successful business, went to Ithaca College, same time I did, graduated same year I did. I never met him, never hung out with him. That time was good times. Abby, I'm glad you have a friend. A friend played volleyball there. Great sports there. D3, but great volleyball. So listen, I call this guy up, and of course I never talked to him. He's the CEO of this great agency, but I did get a reply from his assistant or whatever, and they hooked me up. Long story short, I closed my first 7-figure deal inside 3 months at LinkedIn using the alumni tool, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, and finding people that went to the same school. You guys know that this is powerful, especially when you're a student or recent graduate. I'm going to show you how to use it specifically, but that is one of the keys to differentiating yourself. I'm going to leave it at that on my profile. And I'm going to go take a quick look at a couple of your profiles, give you some tips, tricks, look for your questions in the chat, and then we'll get on to some of the more details. Well, here we are. The mastermind, Hutch Mastermind Hirschberger, is coming right up here. And I want to pick on you. I don't know why. I think it's because you have your shit together. And when I graduated college, I had about a 2.7 GPA and was stoned half the time. So I didn't have my shit together, and I'm proud of you, really, honestly. I think it's great. You have it together. You guys are all heading towards amazing things. So let's talk about this. Let me tell you what I love. I love the I love the background photo. I love it because it's not your typical photo. It looks like either, wherever you got this, you've got a, an illustrative element to it. It's a modified photo. Why is that important? I sell marketing solutions, by the way. I sell advertising. So I look at this stuff, the creative, all the time. And I'm always talking to my customers about what works and what doesn't work. This is a great image. It looks pretty cool. Quick tip for you guys. If you ever use Canva, if you haven't discovered this tool, it's free. Canva, you should check it out. I'm not an investor or board member. I wish I was. But what I can tell you is that you can create a profile photo. That's the background photo, the cover photo. You can do that in Canva. There's a template for LinkedIn in Canva. So you can go in there, create something cool and plug it in if you want to get more high tech. Great stuff. When I get down to the about section, I love it. You're right out of the gates, account executive, tech innovator, demonstrated history. There's no I'm going to get out of school and not know what I'm doing. It's okay. And you've got all the right terms in here. You've got data analysis, customer relationship, man. You got all these sort of buzzwords in there. You got to have them. The other thing I want to tell you all right now is this. There are a bunch of skills, and Eric can probably Google this quick, but there's a analysis we do based on ebb and flow of people taking jobs, billions of interactions. And we basically look at that and we figure out, well, what are the skills that get people hired? In the top 10 is data presentation, the last 3 years. Data presentation. That means that recruiters are going in there finding, show me people that have data presentation. And I don't know if it's in your skills, Hutch, or anybody has it in there, but most people don't. All it is can you build a PowerPoint? Can you communicate data in a visual way? Can you tell a story? I mean, that's all it is. But it's a highly sought after skill because obviously, for salespeople, they want to know that you can do that. But anyway, that comes up in the top 10 quite frequently, but yet no one has it in their profile. And the place to put it, by the way, is both in the summary and also in the skills list down on the bottom. So data presentation. On the featured thing, I'm going to give you, I'm going to open the carousel here. I got your resume. It's great. Let me give you my perspective on resumes. I think it's important to have one. I don't think it should be on here. I think what should be on here, Hutch, is all the shit you've been doing. All the things you've been doing, a picture of you with that California flag in the back. I don't know. You have a diverse background. There should be a bunch of images. You should look at Michaela's profile and just replicate that. Right. So the key thing is the resume. You're going to need it when you get the job offer because some HR person is going to say, yo, we need Hutch's hiring manager. Where's Hutch's resume? And you're going to send it over. They're going to put it in the database. But listen, yeah, you need to support your brand here. And I think Dr. Hall is, underscoring that. So support your brand and get some images in there. Even if you don't have something from actual work or whatever, just go take some pictures, make them metaphorical or whatever you want to do. I'm going to be nitpicky. And Hutch, man, all love with this. But like, I just think that when I see this, I just kind of like, I think there should be a paragraph that explains what you're doing, not this laundry list. And people debate with me all the time. I don't really care. I'm well qualified to talk about this because I'm a recovering staffing director. It's not on my profile. I spent 10 years as a recruiter, 5 as a headhunter. It's my first real sales job. And I could tell you that this is just like I think we got to make it a paragraph. Anyway, the boat driver in Yosemite, like, dude, please give me some images. Like, put the images here, because what you're going to do is you're going to go do the interview, and someone's going to look at that and they're going to see the image, be like, well, were you driving like a little Boston Whaler, or what were you doing? Like, help me make this come alive. Right. So I was told I could pick on you. You got thick skin. I'm done. Let me go. I got to go check out the, you got that in there. One thing you guys should always do is, for TCU, great school, right? Like, put some images under here, either just of the campus or whatever. Why? Because if you happen to strike gold and run into someone that's an alumni, or whatever the plural is, Dr. Hall can correct me. You want to make sure you're proud about it. Like, show the cool things you've done, and it's neuroscience, right? It'll connect the dots between that person's experience there and you, not just that you have TCU in there. I hope that makes sense. Another thing I'm going to mention is high schools. By the way, this is kind of cool. Like, we actually standardized high schools in the last year and a half. No one even knows we did this. We've standardized every high school in the country, and slowly, people that are younger, as they become more engaged, is 18 plus on the platform, they're like they're being asked essentially to plug in their high school. So that could be useful, especially in the first 5 years or so, or 5 or 6 years of like going out and doing work. Whereas, down the line, it's less useful. But anyway, Hutch, I'm done on you. I'm going to go over here, and I want to pick on Michaela. And there's not a lot of picking here. I think there's a lot of highlights. You got the podcast. You're loving up on the podcast. Great. I think that's awesome. Super solid profile here with your subscriptions to the podcast. I love that. This is the point I was making about this image, just this basic marketing. Like, I can't really see the image. When I open up into the carousel, I'll be able to see the deets. However, I would have swapped this one over there because it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. What a compassionate person. And it's kind of a cool picture. It makes me want to talk to you about it. Same thing with the bullets here. I don't like them. That's a personal thing. I just don't like them. Also, if you find yourself in a position where you don't have a logo there, probably because this is a relatively small company, then you maybe don't have a company page. It is advisable to make sure you're using the type ahead to get that information in there. That is the logo of the company. Same thing with your school. Make sure you have that squared away as well. Cool. I'm going to pick on one other person here. Let's see. Peyton was in here. Sweet. Okay, cool. I almost didn't even need to see the Dana Point thing. I just saw the little right there, and I'm like, okay, like, I know, I get it. Wondering if you surf right out of the gates. Just curious about that more than anything else. And if you do, it should be in here. But let's take a peek. Ooh, I love the featured stuff. You've got the featured stuff in there. You're getting good engagement on it. You're sharing highly engaged posts. Perfect. I love that. I actually see this, that, you're in the TCU sales program. I can't wait to follow the journey. Like, that's what goes into my brain. Very, very cool. And wonderful job of like just making a paragraph out of that. I'm not even going to give you a hard time about that, although it sounds like an interesting internship. So that is my quick hit, like, picking on your profiles thing. so many more to go after, but I'm not going to do it because you guys get this, right? You could just look at each other's profiles and like, you've got the time and mac them out, make sure you've got the imagery and go to town. So let's move the profile over and let's start talking about how to make this thing hum. Does that sound good? Okay, don't see any questions. Very cool. Great. So let me introduce you to the LinkedIn feed. I know you're in there already, but this is super key. And I actually, like if I were a recruiter right now and I was hiring salespeople, here's what I would do, by the way. I would go to Michaela's profile. I go down to the activity section. I hit see activity. Now, by the way, I don't even need to do this in LinkedIn Recruiter, which a lot of people use, a lot of recruiters use. You can actually see a lot of this stuff. But I don't care about all activity. I want to see if you've done any articles. No. Any posts? Yes. Perfect. So articles we'll get to in a second. Post, wonderful. 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks. All right. You post every week. That's perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to run through this. Cool. So every time you do any kind of publishing on LinkedIn, you're sending a sort of marketing beacon out to the people that follow you. In addition to that, you're sending this sort of beacon out to the network as a whole. And power tip is anything you write, particularly about your experience at school, add the hashtag student voices. Why would you do that? Well, our editorial team would have a better shot at curating that content. And that's a big, big deal. I'm going to explain why. So let me back up, talk about the feed. I'm out here in Raleigh. It's 5:30. I actually I'm starting to get a lot of energy. So if I'm going too fast, slow me down. So listen, there are 9 billion content interactions on LinkedIn every week. 9 billion. And that's a like, a share, a post, whatever. It's a lot. LinkedIn is, if you ask people what LinkedIn was, that just like looked at the math, it's a publishing platform. In fact, it's the most trusted business publishing platform in the world. As you'll notice, there's no talk about the election really on LinkedIn. There's no advertising on the election on LinkedIn. So it's a purely professional environment, and there's not a lot of friction. So it's all like career, it's all like publishing, it's all, trusted world, trusted environment, right? So knowing that, there are a couple ways to do publishing on LinkedIn. One is you share a post, right? And thank you, Eric, for like, I think we're a good team here. You're like filling in the gaps of the important statistics that because you've been here for a couple of years and that I forget to double click on. But indeed, LinkedIn is a content hub.
I do the same thing with my AE all day long. So we're good. Well, I'll come join your pod sometime.
Great. We're going to be number one in the world this year. We're going to put down a $25 million quarter coming up. So we'd love to have you. Listen, here's what you need to be thinking about and doing on a weekly basis at a minimum. And I'm saying weekly to start. Number one, do a post. It could be about your experience in these sales environments you're in. Let me just be honest. I know we're recording this, but let me be straightforward. Like if I were you all, after I've done all the homework and talked to Eric and Dr. Hall, I would be on there being like, listen, I'm in school. I'm doing basically this internship program, whatever. I'm selling stuff. I have a quota and here's what I'm doing. I would every week, update people on this experience. I think it would be fascinating. And the reason it would be fascinating is if you do it right, you're going to have even more recruiters than you have contacting you now. It's fascinating. And not even recruiters, but hiring managers, right? They're desperate for people that want to get paid, do work, and get on with it. So in here, couple things, write basic posts, couple sentences, doing a talk with some TCU folks, right? And always use the @mention if you're mentioning someone. Maybe you had a class with Dr. Hall, and I'm speculating, and you come out of that class and you're like, I'm so inspired, right? That could happen from time to time. He seems like a pretty good guy, right? Make sure you tag the TCU Sales Center, of course, but create your own tag. It's my tip for the day. Mines do work, and it's important because you actually can kind of filter things more easily. And also, if you find yourself in a position where someone was, kind of wanting to look at some of the content you wrote, they'll be able to pick up on that hashtag. So create your own. Mines do work. That's a nod to Rob Dyrdek and Big Black. If you guys know who that is, kind of a cool show from way back in the day. You guys were probably in like starting high school or something, or not even born. But anyway, so hashtag length. Thanks, Michaela. Yeah, so you don't want to make it too long. Like, you want to keep it short. And you want to like use these recommendations as needed. When you start posting on a regular basis, and maybe you experience this, Michaela, you'll start to see it'll start to tell you like which ones do you normally use or which ones are trending. So I always, by the way, I shouldn't say that because you could probably bust me on this, but the vast majority of the time I'll add an image. It doesn't really matter if it's like completely, as long as it's contextual, that's cool. It doesn't need to be like an image you own, as long as it's an image you can use, or a video for that matter. By the way, I think in hiring for salespeople or any hiring, I had this discussion with my 22-year-old son the other day. He's like, Dad, like I'm applying and no one's doing anything. I'm like, well, what's your biggest skill? He's like, video editing. I'm like, make a video and like put it on your profile or send it to everybody. Right? That's what you should be doing. And he's like, oh, okay, like do it. So one is publishing posts. This is what you should be doing. And you should pick a theme. My strategy here is, once you get, it's not Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, like you want to like keep a theme, and maybe it's like something, where you want to go, like career-wise, or something you're just super passionate about. Michaela, maybe it's your podcast, whatever. So pick something. For me, and even that's in my, in my profile headline, connecting students to opportunity. I do talks to students like you all the time. Done them quite a bit, like 50,000 students total in the last 10 years. And I really enjoy doing it. So that's my thing I talk about a lot. I also sell in higher education. So it doesn't not help me. People are like, well, you care about students. And I do, I'm super passionate about it. But also I understand the mindset. So I'm able to sell better. So that's one. The other thing you can do is write an article. And literally nobody ever does this. If one of you guys have done this, let me know. I'd love to check out your article, and I may be busted here as well. But so check it out. Like, I started, and I'm not amazing at this, but I started writing, let me get away from my dress. I started writing a bunch of articles on the topic of basically how to unlock LinkedIn. I started a live show every Tuesday. I've missed a couple weeks, but like I'm doing a lot of, advice that's like in your face sort of advice for students. And over time, I've started creating a lot of these things. I do a lot of Game of Thrones oriented stuff. The reason articles or basically blog posts on LinkedIn could be useful for you all is because there's just a small percentage of people in the sort of 18 to 24-year-old-ish zone that actually do this. It's like less than 1% roughly. So it's this hidden opportunity. And let me share a quick story of someone actually getting like a job offer by writing their way in. So there's this guy at, I was doing a talk at UNC, the business school at Keenan Flagler in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, a couple of years ago. And this fellow comes up to me afterwards, and he's interested in being a product manager. And he is a big UX guy, and he's got all these ideas. And, Eric, you've been there. He's telling me, oh, LinkedIn should do this. LinkedIn should do that. And I'm like, listen, man, just write an article. Trust me, write an article. You paid whatever, $100,000 for your MBA. Like, write yourself an article and explain the 10 things that LinkedIn can do better for students. And that's exactly what he did. The day he did it, I could circulate the article. I don't have it handy, but he wrote it. And the same day I get an email from an internal employee, and the guy goes, Rob, I want to thank you. I'm a senior engineer. I've been here for 6 years. I've been wanted all these features forever. And I'm going to go to my boss with this article. He was so happy. So check this out. This guy goes in, it's Keith is his name. He goes in to interview at IBM, does real well, gets an offer, ultimately takes a job there, but he did get an interview at LinkedIn. And he walked into the interview and guess who was there? The guy who sent me that note. And everyone had read his article. And he sat down, they started talking about his article, and he got a job offer, which is not easy at LinkedIn or at IBM. So the net is, do yourself a favor. Get ready to draft this now. And if you are not great at writing, like me, find a buddy, right? Get yourself a Brandon or a Hutch or someone that knows how to write. I'm picking on you guys kind of almost sarcastically. I bet you're not even that great, but like find someone that's a good writer, have them help you out and write that article. If you're focused on a specific company, maybe you want to work at Amazon, like a lot of people do, right? Right ahead, Chico, he's the dude. So what you want to do is basically say, here's 3 things that Amazon could do better in their sales team, or 3 things I noticed that they're doing great. Use a listicle approach, or create a story about why you want to be in sales or whatever. So my point is, write an article, even if you just have one. It'll completely differentiate your profile. And when you get into an interview situation, it's significantly going to increase your odds. I had a similar discussion with a woman who started talking about wanting to be in graphic design, was a marketer at NC State, did a talk there. And the first year I did the talk, she came up and said, what should I do? I'm like, well, prove your skills. If you're going to like a career fair or you're interviewing in a line of 100 people from your school, right? NC State's got 30,000 students. The only thing that you can differentiate yourself with is proving you have the skills. So the second year I did the talk, she came up beforehand and was like, Rob, I made an infographic of your talk and I posted it on LinkedIn and like 2,000 people saw it. So I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you've got to differentiate yourself and show off your skills. If you have a marketing degree or a sales degree, whatever it is, like just do something to verify that in a way that will set you apart. It's so simple. Write an article. I keep pounding on it. I'd say none of you will do it, but when you do, let me know. I'll help highlight that. I'll share it out in my network, of course, and definitely give you a little prop on that.
So Rob, one thing I definitely make sure we touch on is outreach. So I know you're going to talk about the alumni tool, but just want to make sure that we're definitely touching on best practice for outreaching to potential companies or employees or whatever it may be.
Yep. All right, let's talk about that. And I appreciate you keeping me on track. So alumni tool, give me a thumbs up if you already know about this. Otherwise, I want to touch on it. I think it's important. Okay, some of you, perfect. All right, let's talk about this real quick. This right here on your page is the largest longitudinal study of career outcomes in the world. It's where every one of your 61,000 plus alumni, at least the ones that are on LinkedIn, where they live, where they work, what they do, specifically what they studied. So if you're a freshman and or a sophomore or whatever, and you're like thinking about changing your majors, you can kind of go through this tool and use it as a crystal ball. Also, what they're skilled at and how you're connected. Why is this useful? Well, I've already explained that, because if you're looking for a job, unless your uncle or aunt or mom or dad knows someone that works there, which is about a 2% chance, you're going to need some in, right? You're going to have some warm connection or some kind of connectivity. And to do that, you can use this tool, which is free, and figure out where are the people that say work at LinkedIn, right? My demo skills, Eric, not so good today. So I can say, listen, how many people? Computer. Yeah, I'll blame it on that. So 6 people that work at LinkedIn. Good to know, right? So that's that tool. I want to mention it because it can be really a powerful tool. Go check it out. Let's talk about this outreach piece. Here's my strategy for this, for kind of, job seeking and opportunity building and just lead building for yourself and for your own for your enterprise or the startup of you. You can't. That's a good question about the faculty. I think they may be in there if they're alumni, or I think the faculty can see the alumni. I don't know why they wouldn't, but we could talk about that offline.
It only lets me see the employees, but that's something we can chat about another time.
Yeah, I love the level of granularity. You guys obviously know your stuff. This is great. So listen, here's how I do this. let's say you know there's a company you want to work in tech, right? You want to be in tech sales. You want to work at Amazon, right? So clearly you should be following Amazon, and obviously you just go like that and follow them. My homework assignment, if you haven't done this, is follow about 10 or 15 companies that are in that sphere. So obviously like tech companies like Apple, Amazon Web Services, whatever, IBM, follow those. Why you would do this is going to start to trigger that algorithm for other companies to be following. In 2008, before I joined LinkedIn, and I actually got a job offer in 2007 at LinkedIn and a bunch of stock options and declined it. So that's a whole, like, we should talk about that someday over a margarita. But so I finally did take the job. But right before that, I got this call and I ended up working for this company called Harmonix Music Systems in Cambridge, Mass. You probably never heard of it. But the reason that was important to me at the time is I didn't have a job. I did have a baby kid, and I did have like little kids, and I was like freaking out. And this guy proactively called me based on my profile from a company I never heard of, all because I expanded my ecosystem of like following beyond like Amazon and Apple. And so the reason you want to follow a bunch of companies is you'll start to go ahead and get a bunch of things coming your way that are similar. The same thing for people. The mistake you might make, or I see students make, is, okay, they go down to Amazon and they look at the people that work there. Of course, you see if there's any alumni from TCU, step one, and then you just pick out some people. So maybe this person, Catherine, but you don't need to connect with them. You just need to follow them. Specifically, if they have activity. So you hit the see activity tab I showed you on everyone's profile. If Catherine is doing a lot of posting and stuff, now you definitely want to be following. But the real secret is behind the scenes is when recruiters are looking at their list, essentially, say there's 10,000 people in the list of potential salespeople that the Amazon recruiter is looking for. Everyone on the right-hand side, which is a shorter list of 100 roughly, let's say, for context, those are people that are interfacing with the talent brand, meaning you're following the company, you're following some people at the company, that type of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. But what you're doing is you're making sure that you're in the shorter list right out of the gates. And that's simple. Follow companies, follow people at the companies. Next up is this whole issue of, this whole issue of like, okay, so now I have someone. By the way, I'm trying to be as careful as I can about looking at people's profiles for compliance reasons, but assuming you're not publishing this recording on the web, I think I'll be okay. But here's the thing. So you're following some people. That's awesome. What you can really do once you start going down that line is just sort of like trying to figure out where maybe people used to work. For example, this guy went from Dude Solutions, which is a legitimate and amazing company, by the way, turns out, to Red Hat. So I would follow this by default. So I'm creating like this layered approach to following that makes a feed that's completely conditioned. And then when you get to the point where you want to reach out, here's where most people, that aren't sales oriented or just don't have any guts fall down. They don't know how to connect with this person. And you should be doing that. Like at some point you should be connecting and you should be sending short messages, whether it's an in-mail or find a workaround and find the person's email. Not hard to do, right? Pretty easy to do actually, and get a message into that person and make it crisp and clean and really about you wanting them to connect up. And don't do the usual stuff that everyone does. Oh, I want to learn, I want to have coffee with you virtually or whatever. Come up with your own unique way of saying, listen, I'd love to learn more about whatever. Here's why, and let me know. Send that out to 100 people or whatever you can do and go for it. So I guess in a nutshell, the following piece plus the connecting piece, people are always they get stopped there. And I think you just got to use your sales skills and just drive through it. Does that make sense?
Love it. You're crushing it, but I do want to just take a pause and see if there's any questions from students, either in the chat or just want to jump off mute or put yourself on video and ask anything.
I'll ask one. Most of the people on here are sophomores and they wait until their junior or senior year to get started on LinkedIn and, making it look awesome. What's one of the biggest mistakes that students make when setting up their profile?
Yeah, so I think just not finishing it, like not completing a full profile. And if you had to weight everything and how the algorithm is working, like having a complete profile is super important. And a lot of students in particular give up on that because they think, well, I don't have everything you need, but you totally do. Um, and I think just getting it all done and getting your profile done is the biggest, mistake. Just finish it and complete it. What other questions do y'all have?
Go ahead, Hutch. Just jump on there.
Yeah, it's not specifically about LinkedIn, but I mean, you had mentioned you had, a low GPA college and, it didn't seem like you were super motivated at the end. What changed for you? I mean, you got a very prestigious role. What kind of switched for you in that mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm a no need to filter person. I did not do well. And I'm actually, I guess I'm relatively smart, but um, I mean, you gotta not worry about in my opinion, like your GPA, but worry more about like what inspires you and like really what you want to ultimately accomplish. It's easy for me to say that, but listen, I turned 51 this summer. I keep forgetting this is recorded, not that it matters. And I don't usually tell people that because obviously I look like I'm your age. But listen, like I didn't start my career like full throttle until I was probably 40. I went to different jobs. I actually had a degree in gerontology and healthcare administration. And I went and worked in a hospital and hated it. And, I kind of became a recruiter because I was like, I got to pay my student loans. And that's where I was like, wow, I can be 22 and make like 100 grand back in, 1995. And that's what I did. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Now I could really think through like, what do I really want to like do? You know what I mean? Um, what do I really want to accomplish? And when I came to LinkedIn, I kind of did a lot of soul searching and I was just like, listen, I want to like, I really want to snowboard in the backcountry and make money and be myself, my quirky, unique self. And once I was like, okay, that's how I'm going to operate, things started to come together, right? I know the question really wasn't about my life story, but my advice is like, you guys have such an opportunity, even during the pandemic. I think it's actually a greater opportunity, right? To differentiate yourself and like come across and get things done while everyone's like in like this stranglehold of anxiety and stuff. We all have that, right? But like you're in a unique spot. You've got Dr. Hall, and not to like, pat you on the back too hard, but like just talking to you, you've got a guy who cares about you. You got a school, you got their great school, you got all these cool peers. You all want to go make money, do cool things, and like, live a cool life. Like you should figure that out and just go for it and not be like, sometimes I talk with my oldest son. His kid's so smart and he's got a cool job, works at NBC. But sometimes I'm like, I hear him talking like I want to be a director or a manager and then a director and then a senior. Who cares? Like, figure out what makes you happy, what you're passionate about. And people talk about that, but you know what it is. And focusing on that as much as going for this other stuff and let it all come together. Don't wait till you're old to figure all that stuff out. It doesn't matter. It matters that you just stay focused and be yourself.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, since I know talking to students, GPA has always been a concern. I had like a 1.6, like after my first year. GPA I don't think anyone will have a lower GPA than me. And so success and GPA are not related. And I think the biggest thing is you're not defined by anything. Like your first few years in the workforce, you're not defined by that. If you go into finance, you're not stuck in finance. If you go into marketing, it doesn't mean anything. You're not defined by that. I never thought I'd be in sales ever. I mean, I think a lot of us are like, okay, like cold calling. Yeah, right. I've never cold called someone in my career and probably won't have to. And I think like the biggest thing when you start out, they're just stepping stones. So it's like, get in there, get in the door, learn a skill, take it somewhere else. You're never going to be stuck in anything. You're never defined by anything. So just continue those different stepping stones in your career.
Yeah, 100%. You guys can
I
ask
have a-
me anything, by the way, anything.
I have a quick question for you. It's in regards to the work experience page or place on a LinkedIn page. So full transparency, what I put in that work experience is basically what I have in my resume, right? And I'm getting worried that maybe I'm throwing too much on there. How do you think bullet points are the way to go? Do you think you maybe a paragraph? Like, how do you think, what's the best way to kind of attack that?
Sorry, I got a little distracted there. I was surfing the web a little bit and looking at this guy.
Oh boy.
So what's your concern here?
So I'm worried. So, I mean, if you, for recruiters specifically, right now I'm looking for full-time jobs, right? What I put in my work experience under my positions is the exact same thing, pretty close to what I put on my resume. What's your take on, should we do bullet points within that? Should we do like a good paragraph? Like, how do you think we could best showcase what we've done in those positions kind of on our LinkedIn page?
Listen, I was a little distracted because I was reading your about section, which I think is stellar. Like I want to learn about your family and your life and stuff, and that's exactly what you want to be doing. Listen, I think, looking that over. I hope you don't mind me doing that. I think this sales coaching and like the stuff you have with this bullet points, scrap it, create a story, put it in a paragraph.
Got it. Okay.
Eric talked about jumping around or what you could do anything and that type of thing. And I've spent some time in other functions at LinkedIn. I did a stint in marketing, didn't go great for me. But like, listen, create a story, create a paragraph, maybe a little bit more than that, and tighten the bolts. And then don't over engineer it after that. After that, start connecting. ABC, always be connecting. That's where everyone sort of falls down. And Cameron, if you're like, you're a lead coach for sales and you're like, obviously like a young dude, like I would triple click on that. I would get on LinkedIn Live and be like, I'm going to do a sales coaching office hours next week at 5:00. Get all your buddies to join. Just do something like that. Stand out in a way that people haven't done, have not done. So that's my advice, man. I just, get that thing polished up, make a story, leave it alone, and get on to what you're great at, and make it happen for sure.
That LinkedIn Live, I didn't know that was an option. So we might have to connect after this. You might have to help
connect with me,
and
I got someone next week, but the week after the person bailed, I do it every Tuesday. Love to have you on the show. Any of you guys. I actually do this show. I got 20 episodes in. I get a student. And then what I do is I bring someone in that's either like a staffing leader or like a luminary. I've got people that have like written books and like all kinds of awesome people. So anybody wants to be on my Unlocked LinkedIn show, and I don't like doing this stuff, but I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. I'm more of a stage person, but, man, it's a good time. And I get hundreds of emails afterwards. And then when I go to sell stuff, people are like, oh, you did that show with our students. I'm like, yeah, I did. So I'm just trying to build preference. You should be doing the same thing. Concentrate on building your brand and showing off the stuff you're doing. Don't worry too much about your profile. Just tidy up the story.
Got it. Thank you for the advice.
I look forward to your live coaching sessions now on LinkedIn so I can stream them. So set that up.
Great idea.
I just think that would be
about it.
Dr. Hall. I just think it would be sick. Like you guys like to do something like that. Like, I mean, it'd be fascinating to what we could learn from someone that's, like in a great position to be able to study that versus having the quota over our head like the rest of us.
Well, I know that we're at 5:00. If anybody has any more questions, Rob, I don't want to run too late for you, but if you have more time, people want to ask questions. I've been blown away just by your passion and the tricks, and I'm glad you didn't pull up my profile because you probably would have found a lot of things I need to improve upon. So I'll get those fixed before next time.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. I'm teasing.
Well, any last questions before we let Rob go and crush his quota and have time with his family? All right, Rob, this has been awesome. Eric, thank you for getting us in touch with Rob. And even more so, or even with that, Hutch, thank you for, starting this relationship from this summer and then continuing in class. But everyone that's on this call, please take the advice of Rob. Rob, the thing that really stood out to me that I loved is, and I preach this in my classes, be you and be different. Don't focus on being cookie cutter. Don't focus on that GPA. Don't focus on what your major is, but be different. Have those passions, emphasize those, and have some drive or something that inspires you and just jump into that. And your LinkedIn page should be that outward presence to the business world. Y'all focus on Instagram and all the other social channels. This is now your business self. And so show that, be authentic, and that's what's going to get you jobs, not the GPA, not a perfect looking resume. It's being yourself, standing out, and following your passions.
100%. Yo, before you guys head out, I want all you frogs to give me a little shout out because I wanted to do the obligatory old man selfie for my profile. Okay, help me out. I don't even know what your thing is.
Everyone put
All
on
right,
your
right on. Oh, it's this?
Yeah, it's
Oh, hell yes. I love it. Ah! Anyway, listen, I enjoyed chatting with you guys. Let me know how I can help you. I can't wait. I'll probably be working for some of you pretty soon, hopefully, or sending you my profile for a job with my stats. Thanks so much. Eric, thank you. Dr. Hall, appreciate you, man.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Eric. Everyone have a great rest of your week. And go Frogs.